The Miami Dolphins have been struggling to find their franchise quarterback ever since Dan Marino retired, which that happened when I was 1 year old, so it's been a long time. And Dolphin fans also know that they could have had one in Drew Brees. I think you're all familiar with that name, but the reason they didn't take him is because of injury concerns. The doctors told them that it was best to just avoid him, and, well, Brees went on to have a terrific career, beating Peyton Manning's record for all-time passing yards and winning a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints as well. The Dolphins have also rarely ever made the playoffs ever since Brees was drafted, only in 2008 and 2016. So, safe to say, things haven't been too great for the Miami Dolphins this whole century so far, but they're looking to change that here in the 2020s. And just recently, they drafted the quarterback from Alabama, Too Tagovailoa. The question now is he the franchise quarterback the Dolphins have been looking for? Well, to start things off, you need to understand why the Dolphins drafted him in the first place. His story is actually very similar to Drew Brees. Both are shorter quarterbacks in height and also very accurate, and also, unfortunately, they both had a lot of injury concerns. Really, when you watch Tua play, he kind of reminds you of Drew a little bit. One of the reasons the Dolphins drafted him, of course, is because they don't want to make that same mistake again. They could have had a Hall of Fame quarterback years ago, but the doctors told them his injuries were too much of a concern. So they want to make sure they get to it if it means he'll have the same career Drew Brees had. But there's more to it than that. He also has a winning championship experience. He led Alabama to a comeback victory over Georgia in the 2017-18 National Championship game. So the Dolphins are hoping he can use some of that same experience by the time they hopefully get to the Super Bowl. Which, if he was able to lead that comeback and really just keep Alabama a great team every year after that, it shows he's also a great leader. His character off the field is very humble and he puts his friends and family first, especially his family, as his biggest inspiration is his grandfather, which he commits a lot of his football career to him when he unfortunately passed away back in 2014. And on the field, he's always fired up and the team feeds off of it. He's a leader both on and off the field, and that's what you want to see in your quarterback. He plays a very big factor on the team he plays. Once he got injured in Alabama's 2019 season, they missed the playoffs for the first time in a while. So there's plenty of reason as to why Miami decided that's the guy they want moving forward, and I completely understand all of it. But sometimes players just don't live up to their expectations. Is Tua one of those guys? There are a few concerns we should look at in order to decide that. Obviously, one of them is his injuries. Again, I understand why the Dolphins ignored that because of what happened last time, but still something to keep in mind. Another concern should be that he did kind of have a lot of help in college. I mean, he went to Alabama, where you probably had the greatest college head coach of all time, who also used to be a Dolphin somehow, but anyway, and plenty of great receivers to throw to. A lot of times, he's just kind of throwing it to a wide open receiver. Another comparison for Tua could be Marcus Mariota. Ironically, they both grew up in Hawaii, were very accurate in college, and also have some injury concerns. And no offense to Mariota, but he hasn't really had the career the Titans hoped he would have back when he was drafted in 2015. Now, it wasn't all his fault. His coaching staff was horrible, and the team he joined was awful as well. No good receivers to throw it to, and he kept having to adjust to a new offense. And I think it just led to Mariota being a little more scared later in his career. He'd always go for the check down rather than just looking for a bigger play, and he wouldn't really even use his mobility that well, because he was just too scared of making a mistake. And I hope I'm not assuming the wrong thing here. Again, Mariota seems like a nice guy, and he seems like an amazing teammate. But that's just kind of what it seems like for him, so we should be wary of that for Tua. So, will he end up being the Dolphins' version of Drew Brees, or Marcus Mariota? Well, the good news for Tua is that he's in a much better situation than Mariota was in to me. The Dolphins have one of the best group of receivers, so if Tua did rely on that in college, then that won't be a problem. I think he's also got a much better coaching staff. Brian Flores may only be in his second year, and in his first season he also only went 5-11, but we all know the true story here. The Dolphins were on a start of a rebuild, and Flores just kind of had enough of losing, so midway through, he changed the entire culture of the team, and for a rebuilding team to go 5 of their last 9 is pretty impressive. And I think they're doing a good job bringing back the Patriot way to Miami. Well, I say bringing back, not that it ever was in Miami, but you know what I mean. Which we also know how the Patriots turned out ever since Belichick came in office. So, with the coaching staff and the receivers in place, Tua should have an overall better career than Mariota. However, I still worry about their O-line, especially for the injury concerns. Tua just came off of a really big hip injury too. If Miami is smart, they'd sit him for a year. Kind of do what the Chiefs did with Mahomes, and they have a good veteran quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick as well, who can take the hits, and he's been in the league for a while, so he kind of knows what he's doing here. They should sit and let Tua watch and learn from him and also rest up. Then let him play next season. Fitzy is also very liked from his teammates and he sparks some energy, so even if you still wanted to make some noise this season, Fitzpatrick is good enough to do that. Then in the 2021 offseason, completely build the O-line and then Tua should be ready to go. Because you don't want to put your rookie quarterback into the wolves. That's kind of what happened with Mariota. A bad O-line, no receivers, and horrible coaching staff. It's just really bad for a new guy. So take this season to not only let Tua heal up, but also let him learn. And by next season, your team is ready to rock and roll with him. If they do this, I believe the Miami Dolphins did indeed find a franchise quarterback. And hopefully, they also find another Super Bowl win as well.